All right. Well, thank y'all for being here at the Joint Legislative Budget Committee Revenue Estimating Committee that was just called by Speaker Gunn. I appreciate him and his leadership. With respect to that, the committee just met and, as expected, revised the revenue estimate as suggested by the Revenue Estimating Group, and that's where we are today. So, how can I?
Can you speak to the numbers? I guess one thing everybody's been looking at is teacher pay raise. What do these numbers tell you as far as what y'all will be able to do?
Well, just as a reminder, the original sine die estimate for FY19 actually would have called for an ability to decrease revenues in FY19 compared to FY18, and we still made the revenue estimate. So our collections in FY18 were almost $40 million more than the original sine die estimate in FY19. So it stood to reason that we would come here today and revise the estimate. The fact is that revenues have grown almost 4% in the first 8 months of this fiscal year, and we have adopted a very conservative estimate in FY19 of a 1.5% growth rate. And on top of that FY19 growth rate, today the Joint Legislative Budget Committee adopted another conservative revenue estimate of 1.3% growth in FY20. Obviously, our economy is doing very well in Mississippi, just like our economy nationally is doing very well today. And so these are very conservative estimates that are going to allow for the appropriation committees to make final decisions as it relates to teacher pay, final decisions as it relates to pay raises for state employees and other things. My expectation is that we will see the conference committees from a teacher pay standpoint recommend increases in pay for our teachers, increases in starting pay, increases across the board, and I think you'll also see the conference committees recommend increases in pay for many state employees as well. Now, just as a reminder, just for clarification purposes, when it comes to teacher pay, that requires both a general bill and agreement by those on the conference committee report on the general bill, as well as agreement by those on the appropriations calendar. The state employee pay raises can actually be determined strictly by action by the appropriation committees. And so teacher pay is a little bit more challenging because their salaries are actually in statute, so we have to amend the general statute as well as put the money into the budget to pay for them. But I would expect to see both.
Besides, all right, so the estimate for FY20 is going to be 164 million higher than it was previously. Besides teacher and employee pay raise, what else or is there anything else you expect to spend more money on significantly?
I think that what you're going to see is the combination of the increase in the public employees retirement system contribution rates, the increase in teacher pay, the increase in some state employee pay raises is going to receive the bulk of those increases.
Now, when you say some state employees, people might be wondering which ones.
My guess is it will be those who have not received a pay raise in recent years. The fact is, if you go back, and this hadn't been written about a lot, but if you go back to when I was first elected lieutenant governor back in 2011 and was sworn in January 2012, those state employees that are currently still employed, so here 7 years and a month or two later, almost 95% of them have received increases in pay during that 7.5 years. But there's a number of them that have not received pay raises in the last couple of 3 years, maybe 4 years, 5 years, etc. And so I think you'll see an effort to make sure that we see increase in pay for those. The other thing I'll tell you is one of the challenges that we're dealing with is we've given a lot of leeway to state agency heads, and what that often leads to is those who are at the upper end of the payment mechanisms are getting pay raises when those sometimes on the lower end are not. And I think we'll continue to see an emphasis on those who are making less than $30,000 a year, or less than $40,000 a year, or less than $50,000 a year, many of whom are doing a great job working for our taxpayers and very much deserve a raise.
each chamber's come out with a different number on teacher pay raise at this point. You got any ideas or what you recommend as far as amount, whether it's a...
Well, I think that decision will be made in the coming, in the next day or two, as to exactly what the amount that we're going to afford. And the one thing that we have always said in the last 7.5 years is we're not going to spend money that we don't have. What you're going to see when the budget is ultimately unveiled is a truly balanced budget that only spends recurring revenue on recurring expenditures. I expect us to continue our multi-year approach to only spending 98% of expected revenue. And so I think that we're working towards a number on teacher pay that rewards our teachers, because if you look at the outcomes of Mississippi students, whether you measure that through high school graduation rates, or if you measure that through 4th grade reading results, 4th grade math results, 8th grade reading results, 8th grade math results, any of those 5 categories that you look at, what you're seeing is significantly improved student achievement, and the people who deserve the credit for that are those in the classroom. And so I think you'll see us do everything we can to reward those teachers to the maximum amount that we can afford.
What
One more.
percentage
Okay.
of, rough terms, what percentage of state employees do you anticipate will get a pay raise? Can you just...
Bobby, I don't know the answer to that. I think the final decisions on that will be made in the next day or two. That we'll be able to, and then at that point we'll be able to tell you exactly how much that is. But I can't tell you an exact percentage at this point.
Even ballpark?
I can't even tell you a ballpark figure.
Do you feel certain at this point the teacher raise would be larger than the initial 500 and 500 talked about?
I believe that we will give a significant increase in pay for our teachers to reward their fantastic work over the last many years, and I'm hopeful that it can be as large a number as we can possibly afford. So thank you.